Well, hello, hello.
We're here.
We are.
It's another Wednesday.
It is another Wednesday.
Happy hump day.
Ugh.
I'm a 40-year-old white man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Gabe.
Welcome to Therapy Rebranded, where we're consistently inconsistent.
Ding.
We like to start off our shows with Reddit, and so we're going to start here. My dad dying turned me into an angry person. Vents less anger, advice welcome. My dad died in September, and while I knew it was coming and had time to sort of, quote, prepare for it, it still was a shock once it finally happened. Before it happened, I've always worried that him dying would completely turn me into a bitter and angry person, and that's exactly what it did. I've never felt like I do now, and it's been constant. I feel either angry or nothing at all. There is no in between. Every little thing makes me angry, and it's a type of anger I've never felt before, more like a rage over things that don't even matter most of the time. It really came to a head today. I had just finished therapy, and we talked about some pretty heavy stuff, and I left and was just wishing I could talk to my dad, so my mind already wasn't in a good place. Then when I was driving, this person wouldn't stop tailgating me, almost to the point of hitting me, despite me speeding up more than once to get away from me. Then I just completely blacked out and basically ran them off the highway. I know it was really stupid to do, and I feel really horrible about it, and I don't even know why I did it. It was just kind of like I was on autopilot, but it made me realize how much him being gone has affected me. I literally had to pull off the highway and pull over at the side of the road and just sat there and cried. This is the worst my anger has ever been, and it scares me to think that this might be all I'm ever going to feel, and I'm turning into something I don't want to be. I don't have any other family, as my mom died when I was little, and the rest of my family I never talked to really, and I don't have a lot of friends that I feel that I can't open up to about really personal stuff like this. Nobody has really asked me about any of it since he died. They just expect me to move on. But how can I move on when my best friend and the only person I could ever talk to is gone?
Aww.
The only person I really have to talk to is my therapist, but even then I'm scared to bring it up because it will just cement the fact that I've turned into a horrible person, but I really don't know what else to do. I don't really know what I'm looking for posting this, but I really need to just get that off my chest.
Yeah. That's so sad. I mean, I think they need to do some trauma work. It sounds like, or some grief work. And just like purge sadness and anger and missing their dad and having more. I think they kind of said what they need in there, actually. They need more spaces to kind of talk about it, and they don't have support or community. And it sounds like the therapist just isn't enough because the therapist isn't enough.
Well, it sounds like not only is the therapist not enough, but they're afraid to show the level of anger and the behavior that they've been having, like to tell the truth to their therapist. One makes me wonder if it's a woman and you're concerned about freaking her out.
Yeah.
And also just like it's showing the level of, I think, like judgment you're having for yourself and your response. Like what you did is wild because it was unsafe for the other person, but turning it into like a character judgment of like, this is who I am and this is who I'm always going to be.
You have some compassion for yourself.
Feels really intense.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree.
And when I think about somebody being angry, the 5 stages of grief are like bullshit. Because they talk about it as though it's a linear process. And I don't think that's what Elizabeth Kubler probably would have wanted it to be as it like evolved. But to think that it's going to be like this linear process of like, first you have denial and then anger and sadness and acceptance and all these things. It's kind of like, what is it? It's just kind of like a big moshed circle where you feel like multiple things at once and they're all interchanging. And so, like, whether or not you knew your dad was dying, it's still horrific that you lost your dad. And also, it sounds like there's a lot of grief around the fact that you're really alone and lonely. Like, this was something that was already present, was you being lonely. And so, to like say that this anger is going to change you, I think this grief is going to change you, but I don't think you're permanently going to be an angry person. I think you have a lot of potential to not be an angry person. And I suggest you go to your therapist and be honest about what's been going on. And if they don't give you the proper response, dump them.
Yeah, and I just feel sad for this person. Struggling.
Whispering.
They're struggling, this person. Sad for them.
I feel sad for them too because there seems to be like some discomfort with sadness also that like your primary feeling is anger. I mean, it's really unfair that your mom and dad are dead. I don't know how old you are, but that feels unfair.
Mhm.
I think no matter what age
Mhm.
you're at, it's
Mhm.
unfair you don't have community. It's unfair that you don't have these like relationships that are really close. Even if you contributed to that, it still feels unfair. So the anger is justified. But I would guess like the primary feeling is actually loneliness. And that's coming out in anger, which people don't expect. But a lot of people's sadness actually presents as anger and irritability because that's what they're
Mhm.
more comfortable with.
And which makes me think this person might be a man.
They are a man, I thought.
Oh, I thought you said maybe this person is a woman because
No, I think they're a man.
I
that
thought it
man.
was a woman too.
Oh, really?
I
Oh,
don't know why I did, but I did
No,
because man, anger usually that you associate that with a
I thought it
man,
was
but
a man immediately.
I just, yeah, I thought it was a man immediately
and
too.
even the whole thing of them, I don't know why I thought it was a woman, but I did.
That's so
And the whole
interesting.
even it's all man as I read it now, but
Yeah.
um I think just the fact that like were you guys not alarmed by the whole blacked out? Like the whole like whenever people say they blacked out from anger,
Well, I think that's what like Gervais and was saying too is like that part isn't your actions because of that. Like, yeah, that's unsafe for you, for somebody else. Like that needs to be checked in some way, but blacked out from anger, like that means that something needs to come out. I don't know if I'm like,
I I would question if he blacked out.
yeah.
That's my honest opinion.
is that real? I mean, like truly, that's I always think it's bullshit.
I can't say if it's real for everybody, but I think if you're really clear on what happened right before and right after, that like you might not remember it because it was distressing, but like you made a choice.
You might have felt flooded,
Yes.
but like you knew what was going on.
And the fact that like you basically ran them off the highway, but that means you actually didn't. I don't know if that means that person got away or you didn't go to the
Yeah,
full extent. I have no idea. Like
it's
this
vague.
is concerning, but what's more concerning and what's going to keep him stuck, want him to move through these negative emotions, not get stuck. And what's going to make him get stuck is shame. And he's using a lot of words that are shamey about himself. Like he's
Mhm.
discussing himself as though he's like a permanently damaged person. And if he lets himself get stuck in that, he will probably stay in anger. But I think if he processes this, acknowledges it, he can move through this and it's not as concerning. Because if you know that you have the capacity to get to this point, and this is why people are accountable for their anger, is that like there's plenty of ways you could have disengaged with that person. You
Mhm.
could have like let them pass you. Like speeding up is like that's a competition. That's
Mhm.
ramping up. That's you wanting to win. Like
You want them to let you go or whatever the thing is.
you
Yeah.
could have let them pass you, right? So that's what I'm saying of like share it with your therapist because you can like problem solve ways to like disengage from the anger
Mhm.
before it gets to the point that it's unsafe for anybody because you're acknowledging that you have it. And I don't think he's going to be stuck in it, which is how he's describing it. And that's the part that,
Mhm.
but it's so interesting that you put out the gender thing because I just assumed it was a man, even though nobody said a gender.
I definitely, yeah. There was almost no question in my mind. I kind of
Oh,
just,
I totally agree now. I just
Yeah.
don't know why right
Yeah.
away. Maybe it's just kind of bitchy whining in a way.
there's
I don't
something
know.
about blacked out that makes me think male too.
Yes.
Blacked out and then like not having the intimate relationships. I feel like women will have friendships with people who aren't supportive, that they don't trust, and they will still have intimate conversations where they share like personal details and their thoughts and feelings. And the fact that he doesn't have one relationship like
Mhm.
that, like cued to me male.
Mhm. That kind of solitude.
Yeah. And especially because like him not having those friends was just like a side note. I feel like
Mhm.
in a woman email it would probably wouldn't be a side note.
I
I
don't
don't
have
think it's
any.
like
It would have been more of a lamentation for a woman.
yeah, because I don't think it's socially acceptable as a woman to not have
Mhm.
that many close friends that you share intimate things with. But I think as a man, it is like you can
Mhm.
have
You can rely
male
on
friends you aren't
yourself.
intimate with. Also, shout out to you that you haven't just like went and found a partner to take on all of this for you because that's what a lot of people would do. On to the next one.
Next.
Okay.
Okay. Am I wrong for leaving in the middle of the date after he told me he had kids? That's petty. Throwaway account. Guy I matched with on a dating app. We're talking for several months. We both were busy with our schedules to plan a date earlier, but after over 6 months of keeping in touch, we finally planned a date last weekend. Jesus.
Red flag.
Yeah.
He didn't have time for you
Jesus.
for 6 months.
Yeah, that's wild. At first, I thought I read that wrong. During the date, everything went pretty well. I was attracted to him. He looked really handsome. He was nice. Winner, winner. Until he mentioned he had 2 children by an ex-girlfriend.
You didn't talk about that in 6 months of keeping in touch? Never came up?
Insane.
Let's put a pin in that. He didn't disclose he was a single dad. I was furious because he wasted my time just stringing me along this long, and now he tells me he has kids. He said he really wanted to meet me and even told his ex-girlfriend that he can't have visitation with his kids this past weekend and gave her an excuse so he can come to this date to meet me.
It's giving hot mess.
Yeah. He thought I would be flattered. I wasn't. Good. He's a liar and he's not a good father and not a good person. He thinks because he thinks because he isn't a primary parent, it doesn't matter since he doesn't see them a lot other than some weekends.
I need to pause before we go any farther. And then I have a couple things I need to say about this paragraph that's pissing me off. First of all,
yeah,
you said he's not a good father. I actually don't know how you know that. I don't know how you found that out in this one conversation where you just found out he had kids. So maybe that's a judgment because he didn't tell you. I would think that's a reflection of how unimportant you are, not how unimportant the kids are. So I think you're reaching there. Second, I appreciate the fact that you're like not about this like girlfriend, like the ex-girlfriend and that whole thing. But at the same time, the whole thing just feels like you're missing pieces of the story. Because, like, how do you not have time to meet up with me, but you only have your kids some weekends?
Well, my thing is, like, you also have to be off to wait 6 months.
I do agree that it's, like, a red flag. He never mentioned his kids.
Yes.
I wonder if I'm not agreeing with this, but I feel like maybe the thing that she sees about him not being a good dad is that he, like, moved all this shit around to, like, go see her for this one time, which...
He lied about that, but okay.
That's what
that didn't happen, but okay.
Yeah. I think it's pure selfishness.
He didn't have his kids anyway, honey.
Like, where she just sees it as, like, he was, like, bullshit to me, so he's a bullshit dad. Like, I think it's as simple as that.
Yeah, she was being petty.
Yeah. I think that too.
Anyways, I told him this was not cool to spring on me. It's funny, she actually said anyways. I told him I'm not looking to be a stepmom at my age. I'm 25 and he's 30. He told me he doesn't need a mom for his kid because his baby mama is a full-time parent, and I was like, what the fuck? I don't want anything to do with a bunch of kids that aren't mine. I said bye, and I got up and left. He messaged me and called me a cunt and said, oof, you're going to be single forever. Give it 5 more years, you'll be crying with your cats. Before I could respond back, he blocked me. Edit. Stop attacking me because I don't want to be someone's stepmom. I don't have children. I want to have my own kids one day. I don't want to take care of someone else's kids. I do want kids one day, but my own kids. Okay, the thing that I think about this is literally, this is like what a 25-year-old would say on a date like this. She's weird as fuck for waiting 6 months, but it's giving like...
I think this is why waiting 6 months is the problem. The only reason I think you're in the wrong is like I think he deserves to get the date finished out after 6 months. Like, I think you guys could have finished the date and had a conversation about why you're not going to continue after 6 months. Like, that feels wild to me. But maybe it was really unimportant because you guys were barely talking for the 6 months. It's really unclear.
Like, maybe it was really... like, maybe 6 months over, like, really sporadic talking isn't...
Yeah.
This is interesting because, you know, like last night I was telling you about the girl who I was chatting with. Mm-hmm. And I actually... it's the first person ever that I have just unmatched and, like, ghosted out of there. And it felt like an act of whatever, exerting my self-esteem or self-confidence, self-love. It was an act of self-love in my mind at that moment. But the second it was done, I was like, oh, that feels like a little bitchy, like a little performative.
So there's like a way I think you could think about it with dating. And I actually think both are valid. There's one way where it's like you could tell the person the truth about why you don't want them, to give them the space to grow and leave them better for the next person. Or you can bow out because you don't owe them anything. And I do think both are true. Like, both resonate to me.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking at the time. Like, why would I spend this?
And I truly think both are true. Mm-hmm. I don't think you owe them anything, but if you have the space to tell them what's wrong with them,
you can do that too.
I think that that's valuable to everyone. Like, women say it as, like, leaving them better for the next woman. Of, like, tell him what the thing was that made him, like, not good enough for you to even sleep with. Like, what did he do? Like, what was the thing, you know? And, like, if you're going to be single forever, give it 5 more years, you'll be crying with your cats. That's not a healthy version of that.
Yeah.
But he could have been, like, you know, I think it was foul that you left the date midway through after we talked for 6 months. I mean, he would be entitled to say that. And she would be entitled to say, I left because you lied about having kids, and that was a deal breaker for me.
Yes.
You know, like both are true, right? Like it's whatever.
Yeah.
The thing that's interesting to me about this is like, is it stuck up to not want a step parent?
No, I don't think so.
Because
Because you don't have to be that. I didn't choose to have those fucking kids.
you're like one of my therapy clients who would be pissy when I said because in therapy.
Yeah.
You're always like, meh. I'm like, nah, bitch, you're saying.
It's a trigger from my last relationship of having to prove myself all the time.
I actually don't want you to prove yourself.
No,
I
I
want you to
know.
explain because I believe you.
No,
And I
I
think
know.
you're interesting.
I get like this.
Yeah.
You're like, bitch, take a breath.
Yeah.
I forgot what the question was.
Why is it okay to not want a step parent?
Hey, it's your prerogative. Like, it's your choice as like a dating person. Like, I don't want to deal with somebody else's kids. It's not like taking on a dog or a cat or a fish or something. It's children. I think it's also like, you should not just be like, I want to date this person and I am on the fence about having kids or on the fence about having stepkids, because I feel like that's unfair to the other person and children involved. I don't know. It's just like I feel like you just have to like know yourself. Either you're okay with it or not. And things can change and that's okay too. And like having a weird line about it seems a little bit like if somebody was really wonderful and like everything you wanted with like a kid or two, maybe you can be flexible and have some gray area around that. But I don't know if at like 25 you need to be worried about like.
So for me, it's definitely the age and the fact that she doesn't have any children, and it's your prerogative. I agree with all the things. I think when I think about like why I wouldn't want to be a step parent right now is that this like kid who isn't like my kid, but the thing about them not being my kid, that's the main problem, is I don't have any say over the way that they're raised. It controls a lot of my life because they control my partner's life. Like my partner's life is centered around this kid who I have no say in how they're raised. And that's like a really tough situation to be in. And I think it's easier to be in when you have your own kids because then you're hyper focused on your kids. And, you know, then it's a collaborative parenting experience where we're bringing our kids together. But I think as a step parent, when the other mom is a full-time mom, you're like a periphery person.
You're the fun friend.
Right. But they impact your life significantly. They impact your vacations, your free time, your whatever. And I think that that's like very valid.
Is there a way for step parents to like parent responsibly, or do you think there's like a certain way to like meld that? Like, if you are interested in, I'm okay with having a kid or like however many kids there is, like as being a step parent. What is the best way to like say, hey, like this is impacting my life. I also want to stay in parenting, or I kind of want, or we're moving in together, or whatever it is. Like, how do you?
I think if you want a step parent, you should just have really clear conversations with the parent. Both parents. If it's not functional and healthy enough for both parents to be in the conversation, that in itself is going to tell you what step parenting is going to be like. But like with both parents about like what they see your role as. I know that that's like scary and whatever for a lot of people, but it's the only way to know. And then I think other times I see step parents being really kind of not just being like a bonus person in the equation is when like if I'm a stepmom and then the mom's not in the picture, so I'm like a replacement, or the dad's not in the picture, I'm the stepdad or whatever, like they're missing your parental figure, because then often like your partner does want to hear your input and you do have a lot of say in how this kid's raised. And so like you have like a functional role in the family system that feels good for you. That's how I like perceive it. But I think what ends up happening is like there's this kind of middle ground role where step parents, and this is just from being a family therapist, the step parent doesn't agree with how the parent they're dating is parenting or interacting with the other parent. And it becomes a point of contention. And it causes a lot of stress that I don't think most 25-year-olds are even developmentally ready to deal with, let alone want to or should.
I have clients who are in their late 30s, late 40s, who are kind of step parenting or dating people with younger kids. And it's the thing that comes up for them in therapy a lot is how to navigate not stepping on toes, or when one of the kids is rude to them, how do you respond? Like, they're just not used to it. It's like, it's a different type of relationship because you're trying to be more careful than you even normally would be. So, and it's difficult.
You're responsible for them and kind of an authority figure, but you don't have as much say as other adults in their life, and they know it.
And they might have a lot of different feelings towards you than other adults. Like whatever's coming out, you don't even, it's like an amalgam of being mad at their parent or parents, at other people, at you. You kind of just have to suck it up and take it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm like, it really sucks. This is not about that kid. You have to just have some hard conversations about, what is that parent? What does your partner want you to do? It's not your job to figure it out on your own. Like, you aren't the other parent. You actually get to ask, like, what is your preference for me to do in these situations?
But then that like diminishes your voice in the relationship, which I think is difficult.
Which is the thing that I tell him is that, you don't have to just give up everything to be in this family. Like, this is also impacting you. What are the asks that you can bring to the table or whatever it is? And it's scary because they might say no because they have kids.
Well, that's why I say like having your own kid, I think it makes it feel more equitable because it's not just about like having your attention focused on this kid, but it's also like your partner is showing up for you in that way because they're step parenting your kid. It's very equitable. And I'm not saying that's the only way it works, but I often see like the blended family model go well in that way because like, hey, what I expect out of you as my partner and how you step parent is the same of what you expect out of me. And we're both experiencing step parenting together and the difficulty of it rather than you being the step parent who's on the outside. Because everyone else is like raising and related to this kid.
Other.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Can you say the play the game thing again that you said in the beginning? Like, I feel like that should be on a pillow. Remember we talked about the knit pillows for Patreon?
Yes.
Say that thing again. What was it?
I don't remember it either.
It was something about if you're not playing the game, you're getting played or something
if you're not getting... Yeah, I think it was that. Like, if you're not playing the game when you're dating, you're getting played.
Yeah.
Because
that's so true.
The other person is playing a game.
Somebody's the coach and somebody's the player, and you never want to be the player.
You always want to be the coach. And this is a skill that I have that I bring to dating when I was dating, which is that like you have to the person in the dating relationship who has more power is the one who's less invested. And so if you behave less invested, it doesn't. I told Rachel this. I was like, I'm a prideful bitch. Like I'll go home and cry by myself in my pillow at night because like I actually hurt my feelings that you did that.
Yes,
but in person, okay, you have to be the one who's less invested.
You're damaged
to have the power. Am I damaged or am
sort of? I see that as like so like now. I mean, you're right. You're 100% right. I'm not saying
I'm the one but it's because she has life experience and I have life experience, and there's so much life experience that women, for some reason, we're supposed to like not listen to. Is that people aren't safe emotionally. People aren't gonna like hold your stuff like in the correct way. And you have to weed out and you have to wait a long time until you figure out that somebody really can do it.
I also don't feel like I'm damaged because like I think that I have a hyper vigilance and awareness around when my reaction is bigger than what is okay or deserved or seen as healthy, right? So like if I've been dating someone for a couple weeks and I'm like gutted by the fact that they're like dating other people or seeing other people, like I'm not going to put that on them.
No. I mean, and you shouldn't. But like, I guess what I'm saying is the way that I'm hearing that is that you are willing to play this game so much that it's like you go home and cry in private rather than express yourself in an honest way.
Until it's safe enough to.
Well, what I would do is I would go home and cry in private, and then I would be like, if you are feeling this intense about the relationship, but you're not at the place where it's appropriate for you to say how you feel, you should bow out.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. Like, you should bow out. Like, I'm a habitual, like, I'll just bow out. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to do it or whatever. So for me, it's like...
Really?
I've never been broken up with for that reason.
I'm on a, like...
I hadn't until recently, or whatever.
I'll, like, tuck tail. Like, I'm out.
I'm not doing
like, I don't want to.
You guys walk away from people you like, though? A lot, but, like, the emotions too much?
Yes, because when my emotion was too high, it's people fucking with me. The game is fucking with me. Like, I'm seeing the game and it's too far.
This is too much right now.
That's what you mean.
I'm seeing the game and it's too far. Like, the game you're playing is, like, too much. Because when the game goes from, like, I don't want to see lame to, like, how little can I get you to accept and still be in relationship with me?
Yes.
I have to pull out. Yeah. And that is what people do. Sure. Like, there's a lot of men who are like, how little can I give you?
Keep you on a string.
To keep you on the string.
Yeah. No, okay. I fully get that.
And so it's like, okay, I'm not going to give you this. Like, in this moment, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling emotional. But I don't want you to know that, like, this breadcrumbing is working. So I'm going to go recoup by myself, and then I'm going to come back. And if I think, like, after I recoup by myself that, like, what you did was genuine and it hurt my feelings, I'll share it with you. Mm-hmm. If I think you're playing a game, I'm not sharing it with you and I'm pulling out.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's all normal, I guess. I was seeing it more as, like,
I'm
that you have
deeply scarred and
feelings.
I'm, like, holding it inside.
No, that, like, you might really like someone a lot, like, be in love with them, but you don't want to lose the game, so you're going to act in a different way. Okay.
No. If you're safe, I'm all in. Like, I actually think I have to, like, play up how much I like people because they, like, don't believe me because of my personality.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
Like, my partner, I told him I loved him first. And after I told him we were, like, sitting together, he had said it back and stuff. But, like, after we were sitting there, I was like, I just want you to know I told you I loved you first because I knew it, that if you said it first, like,
He was never gonna.
you weren't gonna
Be too
believe
scary.
it. Yeah, like, well, and you weren't gonna believe it. Like, is she just doing this to be nice? Believe it or not, I'm very nice in my relationships. It's like, is she just being to be nice? I'm intimidated, all of these things. I'm like, let me just, like, be the one to be like, I'm really here. Like, I'm vulnerable. I'm with it. Like, I'm in love with you.
I actually just had that conversation with a different person like yesterday, and they were like, and I had to explain to them that how I am with friends or with other people is not how I am in relationships.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, I'm like a little like kitten, like
Yeah.
snuggle me.
Yeah. That's experience. I would expect that out of you, so I don't know what you're referring to.
That's what I said. I'm like, I feel like I'm pretty kitteny with most people.
Yeah. This last Reddit. So I read it that, like, everyone was like, I need a part 2. I need a thing or
We
whatever.
got a part 2 for y'all.
We got a part 2 for y'all. And I'm feeling...
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah, Rachel hasn't seen it.
I haven't. This is a surprise. I'm part of the peanut gallery.
Yeah, so I wanted to pull up the... Everyone was like, is there a part 2? Is there a part 2? And so there is a part 2 to this. Like, my brother-in-law is the reason why my husband left me. I don't know what to do now. If people remember this, the brother-in-law went through her phone and somehow got some of her nudes and had a friend of his show them to the husband so that the husband would think that she was cheating and leave her, and it worked. And then she puts 2 and 2 together that this brother-in-law has been obsessed with her because he met her while she was in college and she rejected him. And the only reason she puts this together is because the friend that he roped into all of this starts feeling, I honestly, concerned for her safety, it sounded, because of how invested the brother-in-law was in her even after her marriage ended. And people were so bought into this because there was like this, I mean, one, it's salacious, but 2, it's like unsafe and odd and just one of those situations that you would think is a Lifetime movie.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like, follow up, like, what are the comments or what are the things? So the person,
Do you want me to start with the OP one or like where
like the hi, yes, I met my husband. And
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So she responds back. The post was a month ago and this comment was a month ago. And when I looked, it looked like it was like a couple days after the initial post because she was writing back and forth with people saying like, I'm going to meet with my husband. I'm nervous about how it was going, all of this. So then she finally does and responds back and says, hi, yes, I met with my husband and it didn't go well at all. We talked and he apologized and asked me to forgive him. He said that he never truly believed that I would cheat, but the evidence was overwhelming and he just thought that he believed me because he was blinded by his love for me. He then wanted to head over to my sister and her husband's to confront him, but I asked him not to until I am comfortable with that my sister is at my parents'. I wanted my parents to ask her to go visit them, and we tell her then. That way she's not with her husband, and she finds out that he is exposed. This morning I got calls and texts from everyone because my husband went and did it anyway. And he had a huge fight with my brother-in-law. He denied everything, of course. So my husband blasted him on social media and made an apology for believing rumors about me. My sister was angry with me and my parents were confused and shocked. I have talked to my parents and told them everything now and they believe me, but they agree that I should have gotten the chance to talk to my sister before hell broke loose. Now she is not speaking to me because my husband tried to beat up her husband.
Well, she tried. She tried to talk to her sister first.
How?
Didn't she say she was going to, that he beat her to the punch? Isn't that what she just said?
Oh. Do you think it was wrong of him to confront them?
No.
So here's
Hell no.
So
manly shit.
Yeah, you should. That's like hands down.
I honestly think she's talking about it like it doesn't impact him, but it does impact him. But it impacts her more. And so I do get like, yo, this is my family. This is my life. Like, I'm asking you to wait, respect my wishes.
Yeah, totally.
I think that was overblown.
She gets precedence for sure.
And so I do think that was like a little selfish on his end and probably just like furious that his life got blown up by this thing.
And he feels like a dummy, probably.
Well, it makes sense to me because his line of logic is actually kind of similar to I think mine would be, which is like, I believe you, but I have this hard evidence. Like, am I stupid?
Right.
Am I blinded by love? Like, that didn't seem crazy to me for him to wonder that.
Am I a dumb bitch?
Yeah.
And you just can't be.
So I like went and looked at like the comments and responses. So somebody was asking like if they're going to rekindle, and she was like, I think he's seeing someone. I looked down later in the post, he's not seeing someone. She did go to the police and they said they couldn't do anything. Unfortunately, there will not be any legal consequences. The police seemed uninterested, which I think is really disappointing.
It's like revenge porn almost.
I think it's like revenge porn. And then not only that, but this is this thing that happens that's really unsafe is like because this person isn't like directly stalking you daily, like as in physically showing up, like I don't have any protection against them, even though it's really obvious that this person has spent a lot of mental energy towards me, and that's terrifying and a huge red flag for my safety. So just like the fact that I can't prove what he did or that he's not like showing up in person all the time means the police aren't going to do anything. But I think most people with common sense would say that like being disinvested in someone after meeting them 10 years later is like common sense that something's wrong.
Weird as fuck.
Oh, it's terrifying. It like, and now I want to know more. Like, what does she mean by he tried to beat up the brother-in-law?
Like the brother-in-law. Like, do you think her husband lost, and that's why they're not getting back together?
That's like truly. Yeah, I'm dead serious. That's what I was thinking.
He washed him. That's hilarious.
I'll lay you out, bitch. So someone else asked a question. I don't remember what this question was, but I thought that her response was interesting, which is trigger warning, self-harm, which I personally hate trigger warnings, but
yes.
Why?
Because I think that the world is triggering. And so I think that setting people up to be like, it's wrong when other people trigger you, I think is a setup for failure. Like, sure, and then like in a perfect world, I agree with that. But it's not a perfect world. And then the second thing is like, who gets to decide what's triggering and wrong to share?
That part.
Like, who gets to decide what's triggering? Who gets to say what a trigger is and when it's wrong in a space? And I think like,
why is suicide triggering? Why is any offense?
Often when people say this is a safe space, they're saying this is a space where I don't need to feel uncomfortable. And that is not what a safe space means. And I think trigger warning like insinuates that other people should be thinking about your comfort. And I think that that's true in interpersonal relationships, but not on the internet. I don't really have much to add. My sister is very angry. She said that I've ruined her husband's reputation because my ex has blasted him and his friends everywhere. Now he is talking about wanting to end his life because I ruined it because of a joke he played. A joke he played? A joke he played? Your sister's a joke. Your sister's a joke.
She said I've ruined her husband's reputation.
Your sister's a joke. This is why people aren't honest about what happens to them, because it is actually more traumatizing than the actual event to have your family fucking act like this. This is ridiculous. That's why people don't tell the truth. Are you serious? Are you serious?
It doesn't even matter if she's like part of the abuse now too. It's like she's like
because of a joke he played. So you believe her. That's the thing that's actually the most triggering is that like you believe her, but you're calling it a joke, but you believe her that it happened. It'd be one thing if you didn't believe that it happened. You believe that it happened, but
he's talking about wanting to end his life. You spread my nudes. I should want to fucking kill myself. What?
I missed that part. Oh.
Now he's talking about wanting to end his life.
My parents told her everything was exposed, and apparently she believed it. She believed them, me, at first, but now she's turned on them, and she's refusing to listen. I wish I could have a moment with her first before hell broke loose. Also, I think I think that your ex-husband is bogus for, like, telling them ahead of you, but I think you're a little delusional that you think if you would have got a moment alone with your sister, she would have bought into this.
She would have turned on you right then.
She knows who her husband is.
She knows who he is.
She knows who her husband is.
She had to choose, and she chose the man because that's what fucking bitches do. But she couldn't be with him and be your sister because he was lusting after you.
Not only was he lusting after you, but he's creepy. Like, if this wasn't a joke, he's not a safe person to be around. Like, and this is the part that people don't get is, like, it's not that what you're saying isn't convincing. That's not why your family doesn't believe you. It's that believing you would blow up their life. They can't believe you because believing you would ruin their life. Yep. So they're choosing not to believe you because they can't handle the truth that you're sharing with them, which is also why they never picked up on it and you did. I work with kids all the time that see the truth in their family and the adults don't see it. The only reason the adults don't see it is because that truth would ruin their life. It would blow up where they are. They would have to stop what they were doing if they had to acknowledge that the way they were behaving is the reason their kid wants to die. The way that they're behaving has caused their kid to be unsafe. They would have to stop what they're doing. So instead, they don't acknowledge it. They diminish it. They minimize it because they can't accept it. And that's what your sister's doing. It has nothing to do with how she was told the information. There's one reaction to have to this that's like in tune with your body, which is this is unsafe, and she's not having it. And I don't believe her actually that she sided with the parents at first. She probably got angry, ran to the husband, and he was like, I was fucking around.
Yeah.
And back she went.
Wasn't that even hard for her to do?
At all. These are people's updates, though. So now you know it didn't even go well. I'm really curious. I couldn't find any comments where they responded to why they are not getting back with their husband. But I'm going to guess there was something there beforehand, because if this was the only reason, it was resolved. Yeah. So.
How are you?
I am good. I think for like my...
good isn't a feeling.
Okay. I am content right now because I am feeling calm in my body, and I've been feeling anxious lately, so it feels good to be calm in my body. At therapy today again. We talked about just like continuing to do that kind of like inner child, the 12-year-old work. And we were talking about like one of the rules growing up in my house was to be respectful. And she was like, what does it mean to be respectful to your parents? Really struggled to say anything that sounded healthy. What do you think when you hear being respectful to your parents? Because the things I had to say were not healthy.
The thing that rings in my mind is something that all adults in my life said to me was don't talk back.
What does that mean?
It means when they say something, don't backtalk. You don't mouth back. You don't don't speak up necessarily for yourself.
So here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. I've realized this prior to this, I just didn't connect it to myself. I had this conversation all the time because parents come into family therapy and they're like, I need you to be respectful. And I'm like, that's intangible. That is like, whether or not you take what that kid said as disrespectful is based on your mood in that moment and like your specific values. Like it's subjective,
and
not
what
objective.
Other adults are around.
Right. And so like you have to be more specific than that. I'm not saying that you can't demand respect. You have to be more specific than that. And when I broke it down to like, what did my parents deem as respectful? It was like, share how you feel without expressing any frustration or negative emotions, which was nearly impossible at 12. It was nearly impossible to share frustration without showing it, to share anger without showing it, to share sadness without showing it. I didn't even have the words to do it. Like I couldn't do it. And so what happened is I just didn't express myself. But that was kind of a lot of the conversation, because I think like in households, things are seen as like, this is a rule that you should follow or a thing you should do. And it's actually like subjective, not objective. Like you're telling these kids, like, it's very obvious how you should be behaving. And it's actually not obvious. I actually don't quite know. I feel it in my body because I can feel when my parent is disappointed in me. So I know when I'm heading in the wrong direction. But like, how do you learn how to stand up for yourself if you don't have the space to do it wrong sometimes?
You don't learn.
And then I feel like in the Black community, it's really confusing because at home, we're told to like, the number one thing is respect. Like, don't be disrespectful. You have to work really hard not to be disrespectful. But also, you better not let people walk all over you outside of this house. You better not let people bully you. You better not let people talk down to you. And it's like, how do I practice how to defend myself if I don't have a space at home to practice doing it? Like now I'm doing it in the community and getting in trouble when I do it right or wrong because I can't practice at home, because any kind of expression that's wrong is going to end up in all these consequences. But you're expecting me to be able to defend myself as an adult and in the world, and I literally can't do it because I've never practiced it. So now I'm going out in the world, and when I defend myself against this teacher or this friend or whatever, I'm getting in trouble because I did it wrong.
Well, it leaves like this much space for any sort of emotional like reaction or interaction with anybody, because you at home you're learning I can't express this. And then with anybody else, you're like, I have to be tough and I have to beat everybody else to the punch before they like get me, or else I'm going to get in trouble at home. So you're always just living in this kind of little box of have to be better, have to be smarter, can't let anything out, can't be vulnerable, can't be disappointing to anybody because no matter what I do, it's going to be disappointing.
Mm-hmm. And yes. And like, I feel like also what exists in the box is like the way my family wants me to show up outside of this house is completely different than how I'm supposed to show up in the house.
Oh, that's good.
And that's really confusing. Like in the box is like, don't express yourself at home, but you're going to get in trouble if you don't express yourself in the world. What? It's so confusing.
It's especially for a kid.
Yes.
Who already has like unsafe, I'm kind of talking about you as a kid, I guess, but like has like unsafe experiences with like different people. You're like, okay, so who is safe? You're telling me I can't tell this to unload to you, but life is showing me that what's out there also isn't safe. So what are my options here?
Like, how do I express myself, defend myself? The other thing that like I process is this experience, and I see a lot in family therapy of like, there's times where you want me to be, as a child, you want me to be really, really independent. But you also don't want me to make choices for myself or think for myself. So that's really confusing. So like an example of that would be like, you want me to be able to like navigate and make choices and not ask you for help. But you don't want me to make decisions based on my internal world. You want me to make decisions based on what you would do, which is like telling me to not have a strong, solid version of myself. It's to be like you. But like then when I ask you how to do things, you're telling me like, well, you're 12, you should know how to do this. Go do it. Like this really confusing messaging around like be independent, take care of yourself, regulate your own emotions. Like those aren't the words they're using, right? But they're like, you better not be crying. Why are you crying? That's them telling you to regulate your emotions, which is like a really advanced skill to be able to control like what's coming up for you emotionally, not to cry, not to get angry, not to stop, not to slam doors. Like that takes skill and
pushing
practice.
Shit down takes practice.
Pushing emotional regulation takes a lot of practice, right? But then they're not letting you practice because if you do it wrong, you get in trouble. And then like as you're out in the kind of like community, they're like wanting you to not make decisions for yourself and lean on them at all times. So it's
and
like
make them look good like a parent.
Yes, like do what I would want you to do because it reflects positively on me, which is not something I talked about in therapy, but something that I see often. It's like these parents are like giving these really confusing messages. It's like the parents I work with where like you don't, you want your kid to be independent and they're like a 17-year-old and like you're still limiting their screen time. That's like when you're telling your kid you don't even know how to manage how much TV and phone use you have.
So they can
and then you tell them like, but you should be able to figure out how to get a job, how to do school, how to do all these things. Those are very confusing messages because in one message you're telling me I'm kind of dumb. I can't even like figure out how to handle
my screen time.
I can't even handle watching TV because it makes me tweak and turn into a crazy, irrational, emotional person.
But you're okay with me going to and from work every day.
And you're okay with me, like, and you expect me to manage school without your support. Really confusing messaging. So that was like just some of the things I was teasing out is like, those examples aren't specific to me, but just this thought process of like, I was getting told things that like didn't align with like what was happening. Like I was being told like, when you're out in the world, question everything. Don't just follow because you're supposed to. Just don't follow because people tell you to. But don't question me.
When I tell you to do something, you do it.
Without question. Confusing. So I've just been kind of like sitting in that and teasing that out because I think it plays into how I think it plays into who I am now is this feeling of there's a right and a wrong answer. And like the right answer is something that will get me like not necessarily the outcome I want, but like, yes, the outcome I want. But the thing is, the outcome I want is for that other person to be okay or for them not to cause me stress or drama. Does that make sense?
It'll make kind of this experience feel more tolerable or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like my hard drive is like there's a certain way you do things with certain people, and there's a different way you do things with other people. And there's some truth to that, but that didn't teach me how to be like an authentic person. I had to like unlearn a lot of that to be like a good, authentic person.
To be one person.
To be one person instead of like, this is who you are at home. This is who you are in the community. This is who you are with your friends. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and then I think as we age, our parents are like, well, I want to see the whole you. And it's like, well, that's really scary because my whole life you've told me you only want to see a sliver of me. So like, I don't know if I want to let you into all the other things because like you've shown me like
you can't handle it.
You can't handle it. And there's only one way to be with you. And it's this way. And I'm like this as a person. And so like, I'm scared to show you all of this because like my whole life you've told me like, this isn't okay.
Now, I'm sorry to interrupt this wonderful check-in, but it got a little too personal. So if you'd like to hear the rest of it, subscribe to us on Patreon. Now, back to the show.
Let's get into this Love is Blind shit since we're talking about family of origin, because I think it actually plays a huge role into what decisions people make.
Who are we going to start with on this one?
Chelsea and Jimmy. Because they're the quick and easies.
Chelsea triggered the fuck out of me.
She did.
Oh my, and I know specifically why.
Oh.
It's the accountability, but it's like the we, us accountability.
Yeah.
That stuff is triggering for me.
Yeah.
I have parents who do that
the we, us stuff?
Well, because she'd be like, it's not me, it's us.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't do it.
Too.
We did it.
No,
we do this. I was in crabby. We were crabby.
We were both having a hard time.
So Jimmy, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty shocked by this. So the first like 10 minutes of the newest episode, Jimmy had asked her like, hey, what do you think about our marriage? And then broke it off, which was pretty shocking to me because I was like, what is going on? And he did this like
a bait and switch.
Yes, thank you. He did a bait and switch. And I actually don't think he would have got that response from Chelsea if he hadn't a bait and switch it. So he sets it up and he goes, I quote, no doubt you're my person. I know you are my person. No doubt. Yeah, I have no doubt you're my person. Like, how do you feel about where we are? I just don't know how you feel where we are. Like, how are you feeling about getting married at the altar?
So, of course, she's going to feel vulnerable, like, or open to, like,
sharing. I didn't think she was vulnerable, to be honest.
Not vulnerable, but, like,
I thought she was cagey and withholding because her clear answer was, yes, I want to get married, but she didn't want to say that. So she kind of was like, and talked for 2 minutes about nothing. And then it was like, but you've earned my trust. So the answer is yes. This was kind of disturbing. Like,
the whole thing, I was literally hiding behind a pillow watching this. I was like, I couldn't. I kept on like hiding my face and like coming back out to watch this. It was so bad.
So she says she wants to marry him, and he chuckles.
Get your producer, bro.
He chuckles. She says she wants to marry him, and he chuckles, which is like secondhand embarrassment for me. And then he starts going
domestic.
And then he starts going in. I want a relationship that's exactly like what we have. You are what I want in a wife. Yes. But I cannot go to the altar. And she's like quiet and short circuiting.
Why is he bullshitting?
Like, how does he say you're exactly what I want in a wife, but I can't go to the altar? Make it make sense.
That's basically what he's admitting is I am just enormously self-destructive. I am just prodigiously self-destructive. You're perfect.
For me.
I'm going to break it up.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
So then he starts saying like the reasons that he cannot go to the altar. And they are because of the fight that they had that we processed last episode. And he basically says, like, the way that you showed up in that fight means I can't trust you. You're not solid. And she's like, I'm so confused. We literally picked out our wedding songs today.
Which is valid.
I'm so confused what's going on.
Valid.
Like, you told me you're going to move past this. And she immediately starts cutting into him of, like, you always knew you were going to say no. You always knew that this was what it was going to be. Like, you're looking for reasons. And as he starts to say, like, these are all the reasons, this is probably why Rachel got triggered, she's like, but you do those too. You do those too. And he cuts her off and he goes, okay, continue to remind me why I'm making the right decision then.
Well, he's good at arguing.
Ooh, and she just spirals after that.
That would make me go off. I'm not going to lie to you. Whether or not that would be like hand to head immediately.
Remind me why I'm making the right decision? Do you think he's a better guy? Because this is the Reddit conversation. The Reddit conversation was like, Jimmy's a great guy because he did not do it at the altar. He did it before the altar. Does that make him a better guy?
I don't know if he's a better guy, but I do think it's preferable, like doing it than doing it on the. That's literally what he. That's literally the entire time. He just wants somebody hotter.
I think you nailed it, actually.
No, his head got big at the thing. So Shorty was like, I will give you, I'm interested in you, I'm whatever. And I think he was already on the way out the door. I don't think that was the catalyst, but he's like, oh, I have an option with the hotter girl who's in love with me. I think that's what it was.
I had said, I think it was either last episode or the first episode where I was like, he's going to go hard to do the good old boy thing, to be like, I did my best, I tried my best. And she's kind of calling him on it. Like, you always wanted to say no. And because of how quote, crazy Chelsea has acted, like,
I agree.
She comes across as really insecure. But I think that point is actually valid. Of like, you never wanted this. Like, don't bullshit me.
Well, what I would say is that she also always knew.
She did always know. I think that's a very valid point.
They both knew that they weren't a good match in all reality, I think. But
I don't think Chelsea thought that they weren't going to get married. I really think Chelsea thought they were going to go the whole way. And the reason why I say that is because when he asked her if she was into it, she responded with a level of power that says Jimmy's into it. Because she was kind of doing this KJ withholding thing that I felt like didn't reflect where they were actually at.
Do you believe that he was just being a TV star?
Jimmy? No.
Why?
I think he's a good old boy who really wanted to like get married and like thought this was the way or whatever. And maybe it was like a kind of like a fun thing that the guys told him to do. I don't know, but like
put it this way: he's either being a TV star or he is holding out for the hotter chick.
Holding out for the hotter chick.
Okay. And I'm good with either of those two, but it's got to be one of them.
Third option is Chelsea's really not a great pick. Period.
But we knew that from the beginning.
And he did too, but is he like doing the like I'm a good guy thing by like playing it out all the way to the end? Because he even did the good guy thing of like, I don't want people to shit on me for dumping you at the altar, so I'm gonna do it here. Which my partner brought up a good point, which is like, isn't the point to say yes or no at the altar? Like that is kind of what you signed up for. Does that really make you a better person?
I didn't think about that.
Oh, he's looking at it like an employee. Yeah, he's just not a good employee.
Like it's not. You're not doing the full experience. Like and he didn't. You know, he made such a big fucking fuss about meeting his family.
Yeah,
like going up in front of his family and doing the whole thing is probably unbearable for him.
Yeah, and saying no in front of his family.
It's not even about her. Probably if it weren't about, like, he probably is okay with fucking embarrassing her. Probably it's more about like
his family and himself
and having his family on TV or like that whole thing. Like he had this whole thing about that other girl. Like it's not about me, it's about her reputation. Like he's thinking about the extra, like what happens out here, which
my gut says he wasn't in it from the beginning. And there's a lot of evidence to demonstrate that even if he wasn't in it from the beginning, Chelsea blew it. Like that really did happen. She really did blow it. So it's really hard to like distinguish the fact.
They're kind of doomed.
But he's definitely not a hero for like breaking it off before the thing.
No, everybody wants him to be like a darling or like kind of like what was the queer ultimate, like the queer ultimate with that. There was like that one couple that they really like villainized one or the other.
Yeah.
It's like just never that. It's just never that. Especially on reality TV.
It is with Clay LIB, but yeah.
Oh.
It is that.
Oh, it is that.
But they're not that.
No, they're not that.
I just think, you know, and he brought up again, like this betrayal of trust of like, I told you not to out my friend and I sleeping together.
And then she did it again.
And then not only did she do it, but she was like, oh, I'm sorry. Your deepest secret is fucking your friend.
And said it again. And
I was like.
Sorry, I love that.
And his response was like, it's not my deepest secret. It's like respectful to her. Like she didn't want this out on the show. She didn't want this out here. And like, you're betraying my trust because I couldn't tell you this in confidence. And she said without saying like, so I get to act crazy on camera, but I don't get to say why I'm acting crazy on camera. Fuck you. Like that was like the tone for me was like, cause she was like, my feelings were in it though. My feelings of like this, like, I'm acting crazy and I want to say why because the reason's not going to make me look crazy and it does still. But I think she thought it was going to bail her out.
I agree.
And that's why she shared it.
I agree.
So they're done. They don't go to the altar.
But it's going to be great in the reunion.
It's going to be great in the reunion. I can't wait to hear how he reached out to Jess directly after. And Jess is going to be their chef's kiss.
I think Jess is already going to have a new man.
Ooh, like now that this, like you waited until this failed to come to me, fuck you,
and
kind of thing.
I think she's too much pride or like bad bitch energy to like wait around.
But it's not waiting. It's been like a week since he met her.
But I don't even think that she's really that into this. Like, he's not her. She gives that she likes black guys. She talks like a white girl, like, is around black people.
I don't see
She's
that
just
at
a
all.
fucking nutcase, man.
I don't see that at all. I don't get that at all.
High
from her.
maintenance nutcase.
I don't get that at all. I just like, I could totally see her, like, her and Jimmy, like, meeting up and hanging out like 2 times and then them deciding it's not a thing and that like being a big drama in the reunion.
Yeah.
Of like, there's too much curiosity because like, if he was the one, wouldn't that be great to be like, you should have always been with me the whole time? Like, that would be like the filler.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about who we want to talk about.
AD and Clay, baby.
There's so much. Where do we even start?
I took notes because I just literally could not.
Much. I started talking to the TV immediately when they came on the television. I was like,
I'm going to go in chronological order, so chime in when you want to. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Fuck.
I wrote it
down.
down.
Actually, like, this made me so upset.
So we start the episode with like AD and Clay leaning really heavily into wedding preparations, which was actually, he leaned in so hard to wedding preparations that he gaslit me. Like,
I thought he might make it.
I was sitting next to my partner who's also a Redditor and is less invested, and I'm like, I know you looked this up on Reddit. What's the outcome? Because I'm buying into them and I like can't stomach it. I can't stomach it. Like, I'm buying into it. I can't stomach it. He's like, they broke up. I'm like, okay, cool. So like, he's leaning in heavily and he's saying to her, he's literally saying to people, to the camera, like, she's my best friend. I'll go to war for her. Like,
God.
I'm quoting
This
these.
is insane.
I wrote these down as quotes. Best friend vibes. I'll go to war with her. He's like trying to express this level of self-awareness. He quotes like, she's comfortable with my flaws and I truly appreciate that. She's made me grow as a person. We have the best sexual chemistry. Like, I'm really
Mind you, it's been a month.
I'm listening to this like, oh my God, was I wrong? Because I might be wrong because the way he's talking about her is like he turned a corner and he's expressing that outwardly.
He's really grown. He really loves her.
Not.
So then,
This nigga's surprised that he said he was surprised he could feel love for another person.
he did say that.
He was surprised. He said, I didn't think it was possible for me.
I just want to analyze this now. Like, why, like, is he such a sociopath? He just wants that gratification. Like, just every second of it I can get.
I don't know if he's just so detached. He's just so, like, there's so much trauma there's so much.
He's not even connecting.
Well, he says it at the end that
her.
no. He says at the end, he says it openly that he lacks empathy.
Wow.
He said he
says
learned
that.
about empathy. That's what he said. You're right.
No. He said, I'm not ready to get married because I need to work on my empathy. That's what he said to the T.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, there it is right there. Like, it takes a lot of empathy to be in a marriage. And so like, that's just even the bare minimum bottom.
He said he wasn't deeply in love with her.
He did. So we get to the wedding morning. So they have like their bachelorette or whatever. And it's very clear that AD thinks they're getting married. Like,
she's
there
drunk
is no
at
question.
her bachelorette, getting fucked up, ready to get married.
She's ready to get married. And then the wedding morning, her family, it's very clear that they're like all about it. And they both are excited and present. Like, literally, Clay's walking up to the altar being like, Mom, do you love this sign? Like, this is so exciting. Knowing he's about to dub this girl. Like,
He's calling her mom?
His mom.
His mom is giving him like this little pep talk and whatever. And like, he's like checked out though. I feel you can see he's so uncomfortable.
Mm.
And she's like, you're going to cry when you come down the aisle. We knew he wasn't going to fucking cry.
The thing that was interesting too is like Clay's friends, like as the lead up to the wedding, were like discussing all this growth with him, and I felt like encouraging him to be in this relationship. Like, they know that Clay's off and they're like, this girl is good for you. She's like making you more human. And he's acknowledging that it's making him more human.
Oh my
there was
fucking
but
God.
They were also laughing about who he was, and he was laughing about who he was. Like, she's signing up for this. It was like, she's buckling up for who you are. They're like, because we all know. And that was gross to me. Like, they're like, you're getting married, but the party don't have to stop, is the vibes that it gave to me.
The other thing is that like AD's mom is like continuing to sell the dream on the other side. So she's like, I ran into like Clay's mom and like all the things she said
Soul
about you are
connection.
wonderful. And like, I couldn't have picked a better mother-in-law. Like, she is also like parroting this notion that like, it's going to work out. It's this great thing. It's going to go well. Like,
She's thirsty for him too. The mom is so thirsty for him.
Look at this eye contact he's making though with a relaxed face. And this is right before he pulls the plug?
It's sick. It's sick.
He couldn't even help her up the stairs.
He looks
barely wanted
confident.
to touch her.
Mm-hmm. So then this other thing happens right before the wedding, which is his dad shows up at the wedding. And it was really weird because he said to his dad when he showed up, I didn't know if you were coming.
I thought that was weird too. And he said they rarely talked, but he was married to his mom for 25 years.
You're whispering.
Sorry. They
You-
barely talked.
You thought that was weird, Rachel? That the dad showed up?
Well, no, what was
No.
weird is that he said to his dad, I didn't think you were going to show up. And so to me, my immediate thought was like, his dad knows he's not getting married. And like,
Ooh.
I like didn't think you were going to come here and suffer through this embarrassment with me, which is what I felt. Because both of his parents were giving energy of like, we're neutral no matter what you want, we got you. That's what they were saying.
The
like,
mom was giving that she wasn't going to come. He was like, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Like,
I didn't get that from her. Because she even said sorry to AD after he said no.
oh, yeah, you're right.
So I didn't get that from her, but I
You're
definitely
right.
got like the like, oh, thanks for sticking this embarrassment out with me,
Mhm.
Dad. The thing that was really interesting is he's been talking about this dad as this pivotal character in his life who's demonstrated to him that marriage is invaluable.
They gave the dad so much screen time, as they should. It was great.
And the dad, it was interesting when he interacted with the dad because it was really clear that the dad was, Clay is deeply conflicted about who his dad is. Like,
Mhm.
that was very clear. Like, you watched him show up and like,
Yeah.
it felt like you were at his dad's wedding. Like
Yes.
Clay was like giving his dad praise like it was his dad's wedding. Like,
You
damn,
look
look at your
great."
suit. You look great. Look at your thing. Like,
And the
you
dad
have the
was taking up
floor. You have the
space.
space. You can do what you want. And he was soaking up all of it. Even in the interview, being like, oh, you know, like that's the most my dad's ever shared with me, which is also a problem in itself that the most you've gotten from your dad is on TV.
That and the way he just like gleamed to his dad. It was like everything his dad said. He was just like smiles and into it and is like not. It's like the most like real I kind of saw him on the TV show. He was almost like childlike around his dad. Like
I felt like
giddy.
he was childlike too.
Yes, like giddy that he was getting attention.
yes.
Like afterwards they like went to the side and his dad is kind of like joking, well, you know how it is and whatever. And he's like, it's like camaraderie. Like he's feeling filled up from like his dad.
Well, so this is like when he discusses this like notion of, and he's using this to kind of bullshit to do this whole like, my dad wasn't shit, so I don't know if I'm gonna be shit. And in watching him with his dad, and I'm like, oh, that's a real internal conflict for you, because if you acknowledge that cheating is wrong, then you have to acknowledge that your dad is a deeply flawed person, and I don't feel like you're there yet. I think you're tiptoeing onto it. I don't think you're there yet. Like, he's like the kind of client where like in therapy, I would like say 50% of what I really think about your dad, not 100%.
Right.
Because like you're not ready to hear it.
He's not there.
I was watching that, like whatever his dad tells him to do, he's going to do it. If his dad says get married, he'll do it. If his
Yep.
dad says doesn't, he won't.
Yep.
And his dad was neutral.
Yep.
The other thing that I thought was really interesting is that when his dad was leaving, he was like, I love you. And his dad like coughed and like quietly said, I love you back. It was like difficult. So like they struggle expressing emotion between the two of them, but you can tell that's one of the most significant relationships in his life, which is probably normal between men,
Mhm.
but it like helps understand why he feels like him being honest and expressing himself with AD is such a big deal. He thinks
Such
it's
a big
such
deal.
a big deal. So we get to
Sons wanting their dad's approval is just like enormous, especially when they're withholding, like that guy probably is.
Yes.
Yeah.
It is super withholding and like just he lacks emotional capacity but doesn't say it. And but you can feel it. Like he's saying kind of like he's sharing this intimate moment and kind of like dad sharing his villain origin story of being like, my dad wasn't around and my mom always told me like you have to be good to your kids and your wife. And dad said like, I was never bad at being good to my kids, but said nothing about the wife, right? So there was these
he
like
did though. Remember he said I was great to my kids, and he was like, I mean, just look at your mom. If you want a great marriage, just get somebody like your mom. And was like,
but get somebody like your mom, but he didn't say he was good to his wife. He never said he was good to his wife. It never
Sure.
came up.
That's
He was like,
true.
it was easy being good at with my kids. And then later was like, hey, work this stuff in with your mom kind
which
of
clearly
thing.
is not true because you brought your son along on your cheating escapades, so you didn't know what it meant to be good to your kid.
That is an ugly male quality that I can unfortunately somewhat relate to, which is where you give yourself credit for giving them a mom who's like a stable.
My dad does that.
Yeah.
So did mine. I really felt like they picked well, and they did, but
But it's
To a
bullshit.
degree.
but you
yeah.
drug her down. which is like not okay. Like you were like not a benefit to her life. You were a loss in her life, and now you're holding over the fact that you picked her. My mom would have been better off with someone else. I'm glad you're my dad because I wouldn't be me. But
Same.
Come on.
But let's be fucking for real.
So this is what really throws me is they get to the altar and she's still 100% that he's saying yes. And I think it's that like best friend dynamic that they're both talking about of like, he wouldn't embarrass me. Like he's not going to not tell me in private that the answer is a no. Like he wouldn't bring me to this. Like I can tell that that's like the level of confidence she's having.
It was
like,
a breakup speech.
If we got here, it's because like he wants to be here. Like he, whatever. And they make her go first because the producers are soulless and they knew she would say yes. So she goes first and say yes. And then Clay gives this really endearing speech that's full of gratitude. Like, you've helped me grow as a woman. You're my best friend. You're perfect. All of these things.
Yeah.
And then
heartbreaking. He's
just like, but it would be irresponsible. I don't think it's responsible for me to say I do. I still need work to do.
Her face, literally, she choked.
But he goes, it's not responsible for me to say I do, which I actually think is the right thing to do. I mean, he could have done 100 things right before this, but at the end of the day, this was the right thing to do to not marry her.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
But he did give himself a pat on the back, like he was looking out for the both of them, and then very sickly launched into this speech about how they should still continue. So, like, I'm not going to give you the ring or on paper, but I will get there. I just need to work on myself, and I'm going to go to therapy for you.
Go see the lady.
It was hard to watch. And she goes, what the fuck?
She literally goes,
like, she's shocked. She's shocked. And I personally, I know why she was shocked because of how much trust she had in him.
Were you surprised that she was shocked?
No. Or, yeah. Let me think about that. I think she trusted him to tell her if it was going to be a no ahead of time. Yeah. And that's where the shock came from.
She really, yeah.
So whether or not he was going to marry her, I don't know. But I think she thought, like, if this motherfucker's letting me get up on this altar, it's because he's saying yes. So she leaves. She's like, Clay, please don't do this, because he like wants her to be a dumb bitch and say right there on stage in front of everyone like that you saying no doesn't matter and let's work on this. And her energy she's given has shown that she's going to capitulate. I'm not surprised that he thinks that.
Yeah.
And then she goes and she has a meltdown. How did you feel during her meltdown? In the like after the wedding, she goes and she's like with her family and friends and she's crying. Did that register to you at all, or did it feel just like regular?
I thought she could have gone harder. She like she like kept her composure a little bit. Her family and friends did the right thing. She walked off. She looked stunning, which is like a good last shot or whatever. I like the shot of her with the bottle in hand when she went back in, and I was like, that's right, girl. But I felt sad and embarrassed also because like of who it seems like her family is. Like there's no real support in this for her.
Yeah.
She would rather be alone than have them comfort her. Yeah. And part of it is like her mom is so into all of this. Like it's hard to be real when people are so into the fantasy with you.
I think though, like counter to that point actually, that like when your family is as shocked as you guys get to like be shocked together.
That's true.
So I think that everyone like they were like he betrayed us. Like she also
like the mom got indignant immediately.
They had a collective experience of betrayal. So I actually think she felt seen in that moment.
That's okay. Yeah, I could see that.
But what was striking to me is the wording that she was using. That was like so indicative. Like if she was my therapy client, I would like be bringing up that wording to be like, here's your core wounds. Like here
wasn't enough stuff.
She was like, I'm just so confused. I'm not enough. I'll never be enough. If he loved me enough, this always happens. Like I'm watching her like core wound and I'm like, oh, I really identified this with this actually, which is that like she was like, I'm gonna be perfect. Because if I'm perfect, I'm going to get him to do what I need him to do or be who I want him to be. So she has this like moment that is refined, but the wording in it is like, this is a desperate sadness. I can feel it in your gut. Like you're 7 saying this. Like you're why aren't I enough is like
And
deep.
she said this earlier in the season too, of like, I never get the guy that I want, or something like I'm never good enough, or I never get picked, is kind of the thing that she said.
Yeah.
And this fine, successful guy picked her, and that's part of it.
Yeah.
And he said it in his after interview of like about finances.
Yeah.
And it was something that isn't necessarily, maybe, I don't know if it's fair or not, but that she and her mom brought up frequently. It was like that he's so well off. And so I wonder also if that was like, he said they never discussed it. He said, I actually don't know where. So regardless of like if he's like evil or whatever, I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek, but like his reasons for breaking it off were kind of valid. Like
the way he went about it was foul though, because he was
Yes.
giving cues that he was all in.
Oh yeah, he was breadcrumbing the entire time.
Yeah.
But his like, if that was a moment of lucidity, or even if it was just like self-preservation, like saying, you know, we've only known each other for a month, we don't know each other's finances.
Yeah.
Like those are fair.
No, they're not fair. I disagree.
You don't think so?
I don't think they're fair because what he was saying to her, so he was telling the camera, I'm not. So, okay, so they break it off and he breaks it off and then she leaves, right? And she's doing her crying moment. And he goes to the camera and he's like saying very logical things. They're not illogical.
No, he's like, I'm good.
No, not that. He's like, it was the finances. I don't know. I actually don't really know her financial situation, which if that was important to you, had a month to figure it out and you didn't. So
it's true.
I'm not deeply in love enough, which is very specific to her. And I don't know if I'm ready to be married, which is about him.
I don't think it's good reason. Like it's like fair themes to me. It's like me when I'm watching this and like not high. It's what we were talking about earlier. It's like, y'all are really doing
But
this?
it's not fair because then he goes into a room right after that with her and he's like,
Yeah.
You are perfect. You are enough. It has nothing to do with you. You are
Right.
everything to me. I'm just not ready to get married. You deserve 100%. I can't give that to you. And she's literally like, I don't believe you. I feel like if you loved me more, it would be different. And he's like, that's not true. And she's literally going to have to watch on camera before the
Yeah.
reunion him say that she wasn't enough. Like he's not being transparent. He's
That's
not being
true.
honest. It's all these things. It's not just one or two of these things. It's everything.
And he was just so like, people are like, how are you going? He was like, I'm good. I feel good. I feel lighter. Like imagine seeing
But that's
that back.
fake.
Well,
Because
I
even
think
if
he
you don't
does,
care
though.
about breaking up with her, you're worried about looking like an asshole. There's no way you felt light after that. He's been
That's fair.
positioning this to look good. So whether he cares about her feelings or not, I have no fucking idea. But he's being very tenuous about looking good. When he asked his dad, like, hey, should I go in there? And he goes, I don't know. Depends on what perception you want, basically. And tells him to go kind of like, go show her you care because your perception matters. So he goes in there and he's giving her all this reassurance. She's leaning into the reassurance. He's telling her, like, I'm not going to stop trying with you. She seems 50-50 on it. The one last part where I was like really proud of her was he kept saying, I learned so much from you. And she goes, so I'm a sacrifice? Basically, like, you got into this relationship. You used me for emotional growth. You realize you have more to work on and you're pulling out.
Using black women, using our labor.
Using her labor, like using her to kind of
learn
about himself. And fair, when you learned about yourself, is that like you're still going to be shitty no matter how someone shows up for you. And you shouldn't do this. But this notion of like you're a good woman because you taught me something, I think is kind of bullshit.
What would you recommend if AD was your client and this was like the situation she just got out of and she was newly coming to therapy?
No contact. If she asked me, I wouldn't like say don't go no contact. Like I wouldn't give that advice unless she asked me. But if she asked me, I'd be like, I think you should go no contact. And if he's your person, when you circle back, he'll still be there for you. Kind of giving her that breadcrumbing of like, because I would imagine an AD would come to therapy in hopes that at some point her and this guy are going to rekindle, right? So like, I would tell her like, okay, you might come back. You might be the thing.
You have to play into the fantasy a little bit to also get that trust from her.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
The last but not least thing about this, if you didn't watch the end, you probably didn't see this, but Clay's mom confronts his dad. Did you see it?
Yes.
Okay.
It was so good.
And she basically tells him without saying, like, I know that you brought him along with you to cheat.
And I didn't know that for all these years.
And I forgave you for cheating, but I don't forgive you for that. And our son deserves an apology because he's carrying the burden of the bullshit you put him through up to the altar.
She explained it so well, I thought.
Not the cheating's piece of shit having a better mama than AD.
Oh.
Or a more insightful mom. I don't know if she's a better mom, but she's a more insightful mom.
She was insightful about that because she could see, she kind of probably had proof for like, why is my, like, I kept him shielded from this or whatever. And she knows these things about him. And now she's like, oh, like,
I don't think she thought she kept him shielded.
I don't think so, because I always felt like she
I
was
think
kind
it's
of hinting
really-
that she knew who she, like, kind of like knew how he is, and his sister kind of was like hinting at that too. I
That
thought.
Clay was shielded?
No, that they know who he is. Like,
No, I do think they know who he is. His sister, I could see both of his sister and mom were really sad for AD, but they were
Yeah.
happy for AD that he didn't marry her.
Yeah.
Like, both of those things were happening. Like, they were sad she got embarrassed. Mom
Yeah.
literally said, I'm sorry. Sister looked like she was quivering during
Yeah,
it.
she
Like,
was
she was
crying.
secondhand embarrassment. It was horrible. And I think they both were happy for her that she didn't get locked in with
Yeah.
him.
I agree.
Gabe, how are we on time?
Where would you guess we're at?
2 hours.
No, way more.
More than 2 hours?
We're almost 3 hours.
Oh my god, it is 10.
We're 2 hours and 40 minutes.
All right, we're done.
We should probably be done.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, still do your sign off and everything.
Okay. Anyways,
We
we've been
went over
talking
this.
for a year and a half.
We just have so much fun when we get here.
I know, and we have a lot to talk about because I have like some narcissist stuff that I want to bring up at some point, and to talk
we have to
about the
start with the
recent
other stuff.
ASWB stats.
Yes.
But we'll get there. See you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.
It's the end of the weekend, but I still wanna turn up. Yeah, I still wanna turn up. All I want is to go again, but you ain't picking your phone up. Why you messing my head up?
MBC. No relation to NBC.